Hello, welcome to the Riverwatch 2024 launch. Bonjour, bienvenue au lancement.
So welcome to Riverwatch launch for 2024.
Our NBEMO Director Kyle Levitt, Jill Mapia, Warning Preparedness Meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada, and Don Fox, Director of Air and Water Sciences with the Department of Environment and Local Government.
Today, the spokesperson in order are Kyle Levitt, the Director for New-Brunswick Emergency Measures Organization, Jill Mapia, Awareness Meteorologist at Environment and Climate Change Canada, and Don Fox, the Director of Air and Water Sciences at the Department of Environment and Local Government.
Operations Superintendent Matt Rorty is also here to answer questions. Matt Rorty, surintendant de l'exploitation pour l'énergie NB, est aussi ici pour répondre aux questions. After the presentations, reporters can ask one question and a follow in the official language of their choice. Après les présentations, les journalistes peuvent poser.
Reporters can ask two questions in the official language of their choice after the presentations. Kyle Levitt.
Here today. New-Brunswick Emergency Measures Organization is pleased to join with our partners in the launching of the 2024 Riverwatch program. Riverwatch is a joint effort between the Department of Environment and Local Government, Hydrology Centre, and NBEMO. Other important partners like NB Power and Environment and Climate Change Canada are involved in monitoring and forecasting the water flow in the province's rivers and streams. We have been fortunate in the last couple of years to have minimal, if any, flooding, and we certainly hoped for a quiet freshet season again this year. We are optimistic that the risks are low due to the early melt and less snow than previous years. However, we know conditions can change at any time, and flooding is highly dependent on day-to-day weather. The weather is difficult to accurately predict beyond a few days and can change quickly. We must stay alert and be prepared for potential flooding. As the ice has already begun to break up, ice jams can occur, causing rapid rise in water levels and flooding. Ice jams can also create flooding in areas that wouldn't be subjected to flooding otherwise. I would like to take this moment to thank the ice observers within our program. The Riverwatch program relies on technology in many ways, but there is an essential human element as well. There are dozens of volunteers watching waterways and providing crucial input to us. They are trained by the Department of Environment and Local Government to report on the status of river ice and ice jams. Their contribution to Riverwatch is invaluable. We have been closely watching the melting of ice and snow around watercourses, particularly the St. John River Basin. But other watercourses can present risks and are monitored as well. Each morning, the Hydrology Centre officials will collect data with various partners and use it for river modeling and forecasting. The public will then be informed of the potential risks through our website and social media channels. Everyone has a role to play in preparedness. It isn't just the provincial, municipal, or rural district's responsibility. The following are some things New Brunswickers can do to get ready for a potential flood. Have an emergency preparedness kit and an evacuation plan. Every household should have everything they need to sustain themselves for at least 72 hours and be ready to relocate with basic essential items on short notice. Raise or remove possessions from basements and low-lying structures. Be ready to move your belongings to higher ground if your property is near a waterway or is in an area that is prone to flooding. Check with your insurance provider to see if flood insurance is available to you. In the event of a flood, you may not be eligible for a disaster financial assistance if you don't have the available flood insurance. Lastly, it's crucial for New Brunswickers to stay informed and up to date on the weather forecasts and water levels. I encourage all New Brunswickers to visit the Riverwatch website at gnb.ca/Riverwatch. throughout the spring freshette, to follow MBMO on Twitter and Facebook for the latest information. We are better informed and prepared when we work together. Thank you very much.
Bonjour, je vais vous présenter.
So today I will present the conditions since the start of the winter, the current conditions, and also an overview for the spring.
We'll be presenting the meteorological conditions since the beginning of this winter, as well as current conditions and an outlook for this spring. Beginning with slide 1. Ça, c'est une chronologie pour l'hiver.
So this is a chronology for winter in Fredericton. At the top, those are precipitation data for Fredericton. The blue bars indicate the total precipitation for the daily precipitation, and the black lines indicate the cumulative precipitation, and the dotted line indicates the average. So December was a wet month compared to January and February, and this is compared to percentage related to the average. At the bottom, the temperature was above average for the 3 months in Fredericton, and it was the highest temperatures ever recorded for this area. Once again, the dotted line indicates the average, and the red and blue lines indicate those temperatures.
It's a time series for winter in Fredericton. On top, these are the precipitation data for the region. The blue bars indicate the total precipitation daily. The black line indicates the cumulative precipitation, and the dotted line indicates the average. And from this, December was wetter in comparison to January and February, according to the percentages in relation to the average. And below, the temperature was above the average for the 3 months, December, January, and February at Fredericton, and it was the warmest ever recorded on record. And finally, the pointed line, the dotted line indicates that the average and the red and the blue indicate the standard deviations. Next slide. Voici une carte qui.
So now you can see a card that shows the temperature anomaly for the whole province. According to the scale on the left, the temperature anomaly was 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above average.
Showing the temperature anomaly for all the province. According to the scale on the left, the temperature anomaly was 2 to 3 degrees above the average for the winter. Next slide.
And also the precipitation anomaly. And this includes rain and snow for the province and surrounding areas. For most of this area, it was under the average for New Brunswick. That's indicated in the blue line, except the extreme south, and it was slightly above average for this area.
The precipitation anomaly, which includes both rain and snow for the province and its surroundings. Most of the region was below the average in New Brunswick, and that's indicated in brown, and except the extreme south, which was slightly above the average. Next slide. On peut voir
So now we can see the snow depth. It's 10 to 40 centimeters on the ground at the end of February, and for the south, fewer than 10 centimeters of snow. This snow volume is well below the average.
The snow depth chart that areas in the north saw 10 to 40 centimeters of snow on the ground at the end of February, and in the south there was less than 10 centimeters on the ground. These amounts are very much below the normal for this time of year. Next slide. Concernant la prévision à long terme pour température,
And now for the long-term spring outlook for the temperature, we can see a scenario where it will be below average in red, and this is according to our forecasting model of 30 years.
we are forecasting a scenario with a strong probability of above normal temperatures, and these are in red according to our 30-year climatology. Next slide. Côté précipitation,
And now for precipitation volumes, there is no clear signal for the province.
and there's really no indication for the province. Therefore, that's equal between below normal or near precipitation expected in relation to the normal for our spring outlook.
Hello, everyone. My name is Don Fox, and I'm Director of Air and Water Sciences at the Department of Environment and Local Government. Well, we all are excited to welcome back warmer temperatures. We need to be ready to address the risks that come with spring flooding. The Hydrology Centre, which is part of Environment and Local Government, is a key partner in Riverwatch. Our contribution is to provide scientific and engineering support to the program. We are responsible for collecting and compiling data such as water levels and flows, precipitation, temperature, snow depth, and ice movement. We are also responsible for providing regular flood forecasts, and we provide any additional expertise as required. This year, the Hydrology Centre will once again provide 5-day forecasts and identify any potential concerns that may arise during the spring flooding season. During the first few weeks, the forecast may be produced every 2 to 3 days, as required based on the weather and conditions of the St. John River Basin. After that, forecasts will be provided daily as needed. It is important to remember that we cannot predict the severity of floods too far in advance. Flooding is highly dependent on day-to-day weather, and weather forecasts can change quickly. New Brunswickers living along a watercourse should remain particularly vigilant until the snow is completely gone and water levels return to normal. No area near rivers is safe from flooding. There is always a potential risk, and we advise people be particularly cautious in areas where past flooding has occurred. There are several factors that can influence spring flooding. Rapid increases in temperature combined with heavy rain events can cause increased water levels and significant flooding. As ice begins to break up, ice jams can also occur, causing rapid rise in water levels and flooding. If flooding is to be avoided from these winter melts and rain events, temperature fluctuations are a good way to gradually release water from the snowpack and therefore reduce the risk of severe flooding. That means warm days and cool nights help the snowpack to melt more gradually. The depth of snow and amount of water in the snowpack, which is the snow water equivalent, can also play a role in flooding. The latest snow survey of March 4th to 6th, 2024, shows snow depths increasing from south to north, with a small area of southern New Brunswick ranging from 0 to 15 centimeters, and northwestern New Brunswick ranging between 16 to 30 centimeters. Compared to last year for the same time period, New Brunswick has roughly 1/3 the depth of snow. In general, there is much less water in the snowpack this year compared to the same time period last year. The amount of water contained in the snowpack also increases from south to north. The average snow water equivalent measured in southern New Brunswick was 3.5 millimeters and 41.4 millimeters in the north. For the St. John River Basin, in general, the amount of water held in the snowpack is much less than normal at 23.6% of the long-term average. It is important to remember a main driver of flooding is day-to-day weather, which is unpredictable too far in advance. Regardless of the state of the snowpack, there could be a significant flood, no flood at all, or somewhere in between. There's no way to be sure. We are always ready. We work closely with the Riverwatch team to provide updates to them, to the public, as soon as new information becomes available. If you would like to stay informed, the best way to do so is through the Riverwatch website. All forecasts are available here or through the Riverwatch mobile viewer. We advise all New Brunswickers to be prepared, especially if you have experienced flooding in the past. Thank you, merci.
Thank you, merci. Now for questions. Maintenant les questions.
And now for questions, we're going to start with Hina Halam.
Hi, Bruce, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. I was wondering if you could, if one of the experts could tell me about, are they concerned with the less amount of snow and ice this year? I mean, it's good for not flooding, but is there any concern about it?
Sure. So this year at the current state, there's a lot less snowpack in the St. John River Basin than in normal years, and that's a good thing for us right now. The warning is we're still in winter, right? We still have another good 6, 7, 8 weeks to go. So right now things are good. In terms of ice jamming, what I would say about that is during warm weather and warm temperatures, ice can melt in place, which is a good thing, but it can also be released earlier than normal. And so our concerns over the last 1 to 2 weeks around ice jams is we have been watching them very closely, and we have been in touch with Riverwatch partners. There have been some minor ice jams on some of the systems. But in addition to that, a lot of the rivers right now are free-flowing water. So currently, things are looking pretty good.
Do you have another question?
I was also wondering, when did we start keeping records here, considering this is the highest, these are the highest temperatures we've seen so far? When did we start keeping records, and is this the highest that we've seen?
Yes, records for Fredericton have been kept since 1871, and so that has been the highest temperature we've seen since then.
So this year is the highest that we've seen?
Yes, that's correct. For Fredericton, not the entire province, just one location.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Devin Ashton Bocage, Acadie Nouvelle.
Yes, can you hear me? Yes? Good. In fact, so I'm a bit confused and I don't see the images. I heard mention that the St. John River overflow. Any questions about the Fundy region and the Shignick to Canal Memramcook, who have received probably less than Sussex this year, but nevertheless were threatened?
So the St. John River Basin has a long history of flooding, especially during spring freshet and snowmelt. So there is a focus to do flood forecastings in that basin. But in terms of the entire province, I can say a few things. Number one, flooding can occur by various means. Snowmelt in conjunction with rain events and increased temperatures. Number one, ice jam flooding, and in coastal environments we can have significant storm surges. So there's different types of flooding, and to be sure they can occur any time of year. Storm surges we watch all the time, and so some of the coastal areas can be hit any time of year with flooding. So all that to say, we are watching the entire province, yes.
As-tu une autre question?
Do you have another question? Do you have a question?
Oui, donc si vous
Yes. So if you look the coastal, what's the progress in the Acadian Peninsula coast in the north who have erosion problems? Well, although that might not be your specialty.
I can say that erosion is a concern. There is a group in government, New Brunswick government, that looks at erosion and determines erosion rates. And yes, erosion is a concern, both in the coastal areas and in inland. It's a concern outside of flooding, but it also does happen in conjunction with severe flooding events.
Merci.
Pour le long terme, accélération d'inondation. Est-ce que les températures vont mener à des pires situations à l'avenir? Je ne suis pas certain que j'ai compris la question. Tout ce que
Fluctuations we're seeing to a certain aspect are good. Because if we have snowpack and ice, we want it to melt through the day. And then it would be great if it got really, significantly colder at night, and that would stop the melt. Because we want waters to come from that ice and snowpack gradually down the system. When everything happens all at once and we turn warm, and it's warm at night, warm in the day and everything, that's when we can start to have more problems. So fluctuating weather to a certain extent is good. Fluctuating temperatures, high and low, is good.
And a follow-up, so what would people specifically need for this year when it comes to flooding?
Well, right now, one of the things we're currently watching over the last several weeks and into the next week and more is ice movement. We do have people out doing ice observations. We've developed an ice observation database that we share with partners. So ice is moving, but at the same time, because of the conditions over the last 3 to 4 weeks, some of the ice is also melting in place. Everything's cooperating right now, but there is ice movement. So we are watching ice for sure, and water levels. And in terms of the Hydrology Centre doing flood forecasts, we're definitely watching the weather forecasts that we get from Jill's group. So.
Hi. Is there any information on the condition of the ice in the upper St. John River Basin right now? I know it is. And I guess what I'm asking is there any information about how thick that ice is, if that makes any difference at all in any risk of ice jams for this season?
I don't have numbers in terms of ice thickness, but what I can share on ice this year that is good is that it's a less competent ice, and when it moves and if it does get hung up, it will erode very quickly. And that's, to a certain extent, that's good ice. I would say in terms of similar to the snowpack, there's much less snow, so one would assume that the ice thickness would be less than in previous years. But there still is some intact ice, so we still are watching. But in previous years, when that ice gets really, really frozen solid, it's even a different color. And that's very competent ice, and if that releases and gets hung up somewhere downstream, then that's when a lot of the problems can occur. So the ice this year, for the most part, that's a very general statement, it's a little bit less competent ice that we're seeing. So.
And I just, for follow-up on ice jam surveillance, you mentioned you have monitors next to the river residents who are doing this. So I'm just wondering, just in total, what can you say about surveillance? Is there aircraft doing this, or is there any other official mechanism detecting ice jams in the waterways?
Yeah, our normal process, so each year we give contracts to ice observers. Ice observers can be individuals, they can be local watershed groups, for example. And we have set schedules, so they will go out and make observations and written observations as well, and they will populate an ice observation database. And they'll do that like on the fly, right real time. And all of our partners that are interested in ice observations can access that database. So we can see where ice is moving, where ice is hung up, where there's ice jams, where there's open water in rivers. We can see all that on a map. And that's really good. Number two, what I can share is we're using and making use of, not just us, but MB Power and others, more and more use of cameras. So we can install, a permanent camera on a system, and every day, every hour, we can look at images sent from those cameras, and that's absolutely fabulous data. And we've got multiple people installing cameras. As a matter of fact, as a partner in the River Watch program, Environment and Climate Change Canada help us with some of the cameras by the hydrometric stations. The third thing I can share is satellite imagery. That's an important thing to look at, and satellites aren't flying every hour, right? We're not getting imagery hour by hour by hour, but as they do their rotations, you can get a very large look at a large system. So you can get images of like a half or the entire St. John River Basin, which is really useful. So those are three examples of our ice observations.
Great. That's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Bonne journée. Merci tout le monde.
Good day, everyone. That's it for today. Thank you.